Welcome back to another snorkeling adventure. As you can see, it's nighttime. We're going on a night dive in a blue Florida spring. Now it's a little bit of a trip to the spring, so we've got to get the canoe unloaded and go about a mile upriver. Also tonight with me, I have Bill, Logan, and Brian. So the options are to suit up now or later. I think I'm gonna suit up now. So here we go. Almost had an absolute crisis. I found a sand spur while putting on my wetsuit. Thankfully, it was successfully removed before full application of the wetsuit. That would have been really bad. We're gonna be well laid down. We've got the canoe and then also the banana boat. We are riding very low. A little swampy out here. Six or 7 footer gator. You see his eye shine reflecting?
But it's just facing away from it.
Right, there it goes.
Right, nice.
There he goes.
I love that so much.
So alligators, like a lot of wildlife, have really reflective eye shine. When you hit their eyes with a really bright light, it just reflects that light really well back at you. And that's because they have what's called a tapetum lucidum in their eye. So light can enter their eye and cross the retina, and they can interpret it and then hit the tapetum lucidum and bounce it back across the retina. So for animals that really require good eyesight at night, that extra information that the retina picks up from that reflection helps them see better at night. So, and that's also why you can see their eyes reflect. Water is getting bluer, getting close.
Strobes aren't working. Strobes aren't working.
Oh no. All right, snorkel's up. Here we go. In classic Florida Springs fashion, the water was crystal clear, and I could see pretty much as far as the beams of my dive lights could reach. In the sunlight, these waters appeared turquoise, but in the dark, it was all a deep shade of midnight blue. We had a little ways to swim to get to the spring's source, and while this area was unfortunately pretty barren and devoid of plant life, sleepy fish were everywhere, like this little sunfish. You know it's going to be a good night when the lake chubsuckers make an appearance, even if I guess they're too tired to really do anything. There were a few sleeping largemouth bass as well. This guy was pretty decent sized, maybe a little over a foot long. There was also a surprising amount of resting Seminole killifish. These guys are a very large top minnow species, reaching over 6 inches in length, and they are actually endemic to the Florida Peninsula. Some fish were more tucked in for the night than others. I barely even saw the sunfish poking out from beneath all his vegetation blankets. He did look pretty cozy. But not everyone was asleep. This Atlantic needlefish was on the hunt, hoping to find a midnight snack of unsuspecting small fish amidst the algae piles. He made a swipe for something, but his jaw got stuck in the algae. After a quick shake, however, he managed to free himself and then shot off. These pointy guys are a saltwater species, but they can tolerate estuary and freshwater environments and are commonly seen in a handful of Florida springs. They are very appropriately named fish, as their shiny metallic scales do indeed make them seem like a spastic animated needle zooming through the water. We continued to make our way towards the heart of the spring. Although the surrounding area had been mostly lifeless as far as plants go, as we came closer to the sloping bowl of the spring vent, a field of eelgrass came into view. It's pretty hard to beat the contrast of that neon green veg with the midnight blue water. As I cruised above the eelgrass, I stumbled upon a large Florida cooter, resting on the top of the grass blades. Eventually, she took off into the dark, swimming through the water column like a UFO soaring through the cold black of outer space. Wait, isn't UFO supposed to be UAP now or something like that? Who's to say? Not all flying turtle phenomenon are alike. Another smaller fellow was poking out from the eelgrass. This is a fully grown common musk turtle, a relative of the loggerhead musk turtles I frequently encounter in my snorkeling adventures, but with different markings and a more regular-sized head. This fellow was only about 4 inches long, and he too took flight. In the distance, I spotted a weird shape, kind of like a dinner plate with the head of a snake. And that's essentially what it was. It's a Florida softshell turtle. The longer you look at these turtles, the weirder and more fantastic they get. They're built like a pancake, with a carapace or shell that is covered in leathery skin. They have a surprisingly long neck, a pig-like snout, and strong, stubby legs that are perfect for digging. These turtles may look goofy, but they are built for aquatic speed and are impressive predators, often hiding in the mud to ambush their prey, which can include fish, crayfish, and even birds. If you've ever tried to help one of these turtles cross the road, then you know that they can be pretty hardcore when they feel scared or threatened. I will say, never underestimate their extendo necks. They've got crazy reach. I watched as the softshell darted around the spring in the dark, and then dove down to take one more close look at this bizarre turtle. They may be altogether weird, and that head and neck combo sure is pretty suspicious, but that's kind of the beauty of it. We then turned our attention to the head spring. Bryant's dive light looked like a lightsaber cutting through the water as he swung it around. There were a few schools of mullet hanging out in the deeper area above the vent, and every now and then a straggler would materialize in the beam of our dive lights before vanishing back into the night. The spring sloped down away from the fields of eelgrass into a small canyon where exposed limestone hinted of the subterranean aquatic caverns of the Florida aquifer below. With Bryant watching at the surface, I grabbed a breath and headed down. I followed along the bottom of the spring until I reached the mouth of a small underwater cavern where blue spring water was flowing up and out. The gnarled limestone walls of the little cave looked like the surface of another planet. I'm not a cave diver, but it's always awesome to get even a tiny glimpse into the Florida aquifer's network of underground waterways. Without it, none of this ecosystem would exist. But it was time for me to breathe again, so I backed out of the cavern and ascended the 25 feet back up to the surface. We left the head spring and returned to the outer dead zone. There were ghostly pillars and arches of algae rising up from the spring floor. There was also this mystery white substance that may have been some kind of bacteria, but we weren't really sure. In the 10 years I've been coming to this spring, I've seen a sharp decline in vegetation and increase in algae. Despite reporting lower nitrogen levels than other springs, the overall habitat is still in rough shape for this area. The persisting beauty and looming threats kind of evoke an odd assortment of emotions when I snorkel here. Unfortunately, to top it all off, we noticed another problem in the spring. We stumbled across several of these invasive walking catfish. These fish are native to Southeast Asia, but after being introduced to South Florida in the mid-1900s, their population has exploded, and they have been steadily making their way northward. These fish are incredibly durable, and as long as they don't dry out, they're known to wiggle or walk on land between waterways. These catfish feed on the eggs of native fish species and can cause considerable disruption to aquatic ecosystems. It's honestly pretty discouraging to see them in the spring, and this was a new observation for all of us. But it's not entirely doom and gloom. At the edge of the spring, a tiny flicker of movement somehow caught my eye. This little translucent ghost is the Florida glass shrimp. Glass shrimp inhabit freshwater ecosystems throughout much of the southeastern US, from New Jersey down to Florida, but they are often overlooked because they basically have infinite active camouflage. Despite their petite, 1 to 2 inch size, these shrimps still play an important role in freshwater systems. Glass shrimp are like ghostly janitors, feeding on bits of algae and decaying plant and animal matter. They're also pretty integral to the food chain, as they are an important prey item for most of the inhabitants of these freshwater environments. It may not be an easy job, or glamorous, but these guys get it done. Although much of the spring was missing vegetation, I did notice some established protected areas where spatterdock plants were making an impressive comeback. I ended up getting some shots of the spatterdock downstream outside the protected zones. There's a lot we can do to protect freshwater ecosystems, if we can learn to prioritize the health and survival of these critical natural resources over quick profits from thoughtless development and pollution. Still, after seeing lots of problems tonight, it was good to see at least some of the vegetation was making its way back. Before calling it a night and heading back to the canoe, I had to find one more lake chub sucker for the road.
Everybody back?
Yep.
Okay. Ready to move?
I think you're about ready to head back down, yeah.
Cool.
Listen to this. Yeah. I think they're not going to talk now. Hard to see, but there's a baby gator right there. I'm going to try and get in and get a shot, but we'll see how this goes.
There's a whole bunch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute. I'll get in.
I'm gonna go in on the right,
Okay.
so lean to the left a little bit.
Very quiet.
Yeah, I went straight down. I can't even touch the bottom.
After recovering from a not-so-graceful entry into bottomless muck, I slowly made my way towards where we had seen the baby alligator.
Oh, yeah.
Although we were far away from the blue waters of the head spring, the river was still quite clear. Then there it was, 8 inches of black and yellow stripes, floating tiny in the dark. Alligators nest in late spring, and eggs are typically all hatched out by mid-September, making this little guy probably about 6 months old. If he's lucky, he'll grow up to be a 12-foot dinosaur. There's a lot of fear and misunderstanding that surrounds these animals. Full-grown alligators are dangerous. Friendly reminder, don't try this at home. But they're supposed to be. That's their job in this ecosystem as predators. But with a few simple precautions, they're far less dangerous than the busy street outside your home. Love them or fear them, they're all young once. And like all of us, they have to struggle to grow up in a world that, although beautiful, is not always very kind. The little guy kicked off back towards the safety of the shoreline, leaving me behind, tangled in the spatterdock with my camera. It was a pretty solid way to end the night.
was made by the judges or that's made by staff? That's a good question. That's a good. I feel like Alex and Matt talked about it recently. I watched the jeans.
Oh. Bill, you just hopped in your jeans.
Hopped in and throw in Snorkeling.
All right, well, that was an awesome night dive. Gotta love spring in the dark. A little spooky, but still super cool. And bonus juvenile alligator on the way back. As always, thank you guys for watching, coming snorkeling with us tonight. And I'll see ya. See you next time.